Well, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Southern Mama's Delight. And I'm going to welcome my good friend Eva Marie. She and I met, as I mentioned in the very first little video, at the Blue Ridge Mountain Christian Writers Conference, and we started talking about our mamas. So we thought we'd share our mamas with you all, and we're taking a little different approach this time, but it's how they've been so influential. So there's my friend Eva Marie.
Hello.
So, as a writer, and you've written, oh my goodness, so many books. And I asked you, I said, what is it that has been influential from your mama's teachings that you've written? So you got this fine life. You got to share it.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to show you. I'm just going to show you the cover. This Fine Life. Here it is, right here.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And so I wanted to tell a story. I had heard. Remember the song by Frank Sinatra, "When I Was 17"? It was a very good year. Well,
Yes.
That actually sparked me into thinking about like the course of a lifetime, because he starts off when I was 17, when I was 21, when I was 41, whatever. And so I just started thinking about the course of a life, and then that kind of transferred over to a story of a woman who, it's in 1950s, and she meets the love of her life, and they get married. And they don't necessarily live happily ever after. They have to get through some rough spots in their marriage, because that's what life is really all about. But in the end, it's a good life. It's a fine life. And so, I was not a wife, or even I wasn't even a thought. Well, maybe I was a thought because I was born in 1957. But I knew that my mother would be able to tell me some things about being a young wife, and then, of course, a young mother in the 1950s. And so I would call her every day, and I would say, well, Mama, what'd you do about this? And what'd you do about that? And, da, 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 da. And she would just start talking about that role of wife and eventually mother during that time period, living in a small town, just kind of starting from scratch and building on that, and having close family and friends, but then at some point being removed from that, because now, you are starting your own life. You're going off with your husband. And so, Jane, when the book came out, this is it. When the book came out, the very first copy that we get, the very first copy that's like hot off the press, right? And so I didn't even crack it open, nothing. I put it in an envelope, shipped it to my mother. I said, this is for you. And in fact, I think I dedicated it to my mother. Now I got to look and make sure. No, actually, I think I dedicated it to my husband. But anyway, I did talk about in this, I did talk about in the acknowledgments how my mother had just kind of walked me through the whole thing. And so I mailed it to my mother, and she would read a little bit every day. And then she would call me that night, and she would say, oh, this is what I read today. And she'd retell me the whole story. Like I didn't know what it was. like I had not had anything to do with it. And so that she actually finished reading this book about a week or 2 weeks before she passed away. So this always been very special to me. If somebody says, what's your favorite book? Of course, it's the one you're working on right now, or it's the one that just came out. But in its own way, this book will forever have my heart, because I hear my mother's voice all through it.
I love the cover. Your cover.
I love this cover. And this was Baker Revell. And one of the things that my mother commented on was that she had a dress much like this. I've got the picture now. It's a picture of her standing between her two brothers. And sure enough, her sleeves are a little more belled. She called them belled sleeves.
Yeah.
But it's got the roses going all the way down it, and just very, very similar to this dress. So we thought that was pretty interesting.
I love that. I've got Mama's dress upstairs. I keep telling myself I want to zip this up. One day I will zip this up. It's the most incredible dress. And she just had such a flair for fashion. And I just loved it.
My mother was very tiny. And I am not. I mean, she was tiny in every sense of the word, just very petite. And she had that Jacqueline Kennedy figure.
Oh,
Yeah. And so everything she wore was just, it was just so perfect. And it was so a sign of the times. I mean, the hats, the gloves, the really spiked heels,
oh yeah,
the dresses, the suits. I mean, just everything. And even right down to, remember they call them pedal pushers.
oh
Remember
yeah,
pedal pushers, right? I
yeah,
mean, everything was matched and just so. And her cute little kids that she would
yeah.
wear in the summertime with her cute little Bermuda shorts and that kind of thing. And she was just such a little fashion queen and didn't even know it. I mean, she just was who she was. That's
Well,
all.
and we didn't even talk about this, but you've got a conference in September of every year. Is it October?
October, yes.
October, and it's the Florida Christian Writers Conference.
That's right. Yeah.
And you are already filled up, from what I understand, for this year.
I am for this year. Yeah, we've got, like people can still sign up as commuters and get a hotel room nearby. But right now, as far as we know, all of our rooms are filled. So
Well,
thank you for pointing that.
well, I love that because you're so talented with words. You're such a wordsmith. You really are. And you gathered some of the greatest people, and you all have a wonderful conference, and you help folks put down from their heart to the paper, which I love that. And
Absolutely.
I think that's wonderful. So, when you talk about that, when my mama sadly passed away, I was writing a book because she looked at me one time and she was sick. She was in the hospital and she said, "Bury me with my pearls." And I thought, that is a book. And I could see that's kind of where I met you when I was working on that. And that it wasn't funny though. I couldn't get my funny on. I couldn't get my humor going. But that book was very pivotal for me to understand the world of publishing. And that was, 15 years ago when I got really serious about it as a speaker. The old adage was, if you got a book, you got a speech, you got a speech, you got a book. So I wrote that book, but the one that is the more current book is the Sweet Tea Secrets book, which is I was just tickled about this because of the it's just got some funny Southern stories, but it made it to Cracker Barrel, which was super fun.
Hey, that's great.
Oh yeah, that was a toughie, man. Ooh. I mean, you've got to have the right color, theme, weight. People don't realize. How'd you get your book in Cracker? I do not know. That was God.
I have no idea.
But when you talk about stories, I just happened to flip and it was perfect because I call it "Beware of the Snooty Patootie." And being a Charlestonian darling, we are loaded with the snooty patooties that live south of Broad, and you can take do whatever you want. That's not nice. But
well, you have to, and you know what is you either have to have read Pat Conroy or you have to be a Charlestonian to understand what South of Broad means. So why don't you just explain what South of Broad means?
Well, that's where all the blue bloods live, and they are fondly, and I must say fondly, referred to as SOBs.
SOBs.
SOBs, South of Broad. So, in fact, there's a restaurant in Charleston. I think it's on Meeting Street. It's called slightly north of Broad, Snobs, which is funny,
Yeah.
But this story I really love because Mom and Daddy decided to put us at the Baptist church school in town, and that was a biggie for this little Johns Island people. And I remember going to summer school, and I sat behind this girl, and all she did was talk about her Papa Gala shoes. I didn't know what she's talking about. Papa Gala. And I've since, of course, there was a little shop in Charleston that sold Papa Gala. But I remember that I had on my little Weegians from Belk. No, that's when Belk's had an S. Belk's. And I was out of my Weegians. And this woman, she kept telling this girl, well, she looked like a woman to me. She said, I just have to wear Papa Galas. And I remember sticking my foot up going, you should try some Weegians from Belk's. And she never spoke to me again, which was a blessing. So that was my little.
Bless her heart.
Yes. God love her. That was my little pre-snooty patootie moment. But I wrote about this story because my mother said, don't let people define you, which is a great life lesson for your lesson.
Yes.
So I got tapped at my school to be in this thing called the Question Mark Club. And I was so excited. I went to that little Papa Gala place this is a whole different, woman now who's in charge. And I said, guess what? I got tapped to be the question mark club. And this woman looked at me and said, you? And I thought, I looked behind me, Eva Marie. I said, I know she's not talking to me. What grown woman would take a moment from a child's life that's the first affirming of other people seeing something in you that you always pray will be seen? But, it's a life lesson. Don't let the snooty patooties or anybody.
Don't let the snooty patooties.
Don't let them define you. So that's going to be our life lesson for today as we sign off. So I'm glad we've had a chance to talk about those funny moments and tributes, not only funny, but the dear moments that we've been able to put on paper. Lots of stories, though, I know. So until next time.
Yeah, next time.
All right.
See you next week.